Have you ever stopped to think that the wars of the future might look nothing like what we imagine? Believe it or not, what the United States is doing right now with its new missile defense system could change everything. And it's not just some wild conspiracy theory, it's a historical fact unfolding before our eyes. While the world is focused on problems that seem distant, a silent and curious race is happening in space and the skies, with weapons so fast and mysterious they seem straight out of a movie. The strangest part: this new technology reveals something few are talking about. The next world war could be more technological and invisible than explosive. Want to know how this affects you, even if it sounds like superhero stuff? Stay with me because we're going to uncover what's really behind this supercharged defense shield, and what mysteries the future holds for all of us. For a long time, the United States felt protected. Why? Because it's far from countries that might attack. On one side there's the Atlantic Ocean, on the other the Pacific. It's like the country was surrounded by two giant walls of water. But that's no longer safe. With today's modern missiles, anything can reach the US in just minutes. Here's something interesting. A 2024 Air Force report said that by 2050, no place in the US will be truly safe from these new missiles. Not big cities, not remote areas. That's surprising, right? Distance used to be an invisible shield. Now, with super-fast missiles and spy satellites, what was once protection has become a weak spot. The world has changed, and so have the threats. And that's giving US leaders a serious headache. Imagine thinking you live in a fortress, untouchable, and suddenly finding out it has open windows everywhere. That's basically what's happening to the US. For years, they relied on outdated defenses, thinking everything still worked. But enemies have gotten smarter. Today, missiles can fly incredibly fast and change direction mid-flight. That confuses radars and makes defense extremely hard. Here's a strange fact. Some US systems still come from your grandparents' era, designed for old wars, not today's threats. Even more alarming, many of these missiles can come from above, from space. Sounds like a sci-fi movie, but it's real. So how do you defend yourself when the enemy can strike from any direction? Let me tell you something scary. In 2023, there was a test. A missile was launched from the middle of the ocean and hit a target in the US heartland in under 15 minutes. Just 15. Not enough time to detect, much less react. This shows how current systems are too slow. And many sensors still work from fixed locations, as if enemies always come the same way. But that's not today's reality. Missiles shift paths, attack from above, even from space. That makes defense nearly impossible. Another key point. The US knows all this but is still figuring out what to do. They're racing against time to find a way to protect the entire country. The big question now is, how do you prepare for something so fast, so quiet, and so different from anything we've seen before? China has been doing something that's making a lot of people very nervous. Developing super-modern missiles that can fly long distances and hit targets with terrifying accuracy. One is called the DF-26, nicknamed the Carrier Killer. Another is the YJ-21, which flies so fast it looks like lightning in the sky. And here's the most curious part. These missiles were made with the US in mind. China wants to keep US ships and planes away from its territory, especially in the Pacific Ocean. It's like China built an invisible fence around its backyard saying, "You're not welcome here." This changes how the US used to operate in the region. They used to roam freely. Now they have to think twice. If the US loses influence in the Pacific, it impacts their global power. It's like a global chess game. American military leaders know that China's missiles aren't just weapons. They're messages. Messages that say, "We can strike too." This is a big shift from a few years ago. What's interesting is that even though China is still developing in some areas, it's moving incredibly fast in military tech. Chinese missiles can now hit US bases in places like Guam and even Hawaii, places once thought very safe. Some of these missiles are so fast that even the best radar systems can't keep up. This puts the US in a tough spot. Either improve defenses or back off. But the US doesn't like to retreat, especially in the Pacific where key trade routes pass. Oil, food, electronics. everything. If America loses its grip there, the entire world feels it. The balance of power could shift dramatically. Today, a US ship sailing near China can be tracked, monitored, even threatened by these new missiles. That's historic. Never before has it been so risky to fly the American flag in that region. China is doing this strategically, quietly, without drawing too much attention. But for those paying attention, something big is happening. It's one of those global political mysteries that only becomes clear with time. Meanwhile, the US is trying to figure out how to respond without sparking a war. The strangest part is that this is all tied to power projection. The ability to go anywhere and act at will. If the US loses that, it loses a chunk of its global influence. And that could open the door to even more dangerous threats. Now things get even more serious. America's enemies aren't just improving their missiles, they're going beyond, into space. Ever heard of hypersonic weapons? These are missiles that move so fast they seem to vanish into thin air. They change direction mid-flight and strike before the radar even picks them up. That's a key point. Current defense systems can't always detect them in time. And there's more. China tested a missile that circles the Earth before hitting its target, like a boomerang from space. Sounds like science fiction, right? But it's real. Russia, too, has space-based weapons that can attack satellites or launch bombs from orbit. These are modern mysteries showing how the wars of the future look more and more like movies. We grew up thinking space was for peace, science, rockets, and astronauts. But now, experts say space has become a new battlefield. That's surprising, since for decades space was for exploring planets and sending TV signals. Now it could launch weapons silently, unseen. Military satellites are already targets of espionage and sabotage. Imagine if a communication satellite was taken down. A whole country could go blind during war. And since hypersonic missiles can come from unexpected places, even from above, it's nearly impossible to predict where they'll land. That puts the US on high alert. Even their most protected areas are now at risk. Military leaders are realizing the enemy is always one step ahead. And that demands a whole new way of thinking. Like those movie scenes where a hero looks up and sees something shining, coming at high speed. That could be our future. But without a hero, and no time to react. Fiction has become reality fast. Space-based weapons can strike before anyone even says, incoming. That's terrifying. And worse, they can be launched from outside Earth, making many defense systems useless. The US, which always relied on military bases around the world, now has to think up, and think fast. Because if a hypersonic missile can come from land, sea, air, or space, then defense must be everywhere, all at once. It's like a game where your enemy can strike from behind, above, or even below the board. And the next move might be decisive. The US is now planning a massive protective shield to defend against missiles. Think of it like an invisible umbrella that stops anything trying to strike. They want something like Israel's Iron Dome, a system that protects cities from rockets. But America's shield will be stronger, able to stop not just regular rockets but also hypersonics and space-based attacks. This shield will have multiple layers, each doing its part. To make it work, they'll use advanced radars and sensors watching everything, ready to react the moment a missile appears. It's a huge and complex plan, but it might be necessary to keep the country safe. Building this shield won't be easy. It requires cutting-edge equipment. Radars that see far, weapons that destroy missiles mid-air. One example is THAAD, which takes out missiles high in the sky. Another is David's Sling, like a giant slingshot for mid-range threats. All these systems will work together. But everything must move fast, because the missiles are lightning fast. Raises a question. Will the tech keep up with the threats? And will enemies stop there? The plan is still under development, but it looks like it's coming. The US wants an invisible wall to stop danger before it arrives. To understand why this matters, imagine a video game where you have many lives, but the enemies keep getting faster and harder to beat. The US realized that chasing enemies isn't enough. They need to stop them from getting close. For the first time, they want a defense that protects the entire country, from the ground to space. That's historic. If it works, it could change how wars are fought. But here's the catch. It'll cost billions. And another question arises. Will enemies build even stronger weapons? Tech keeps evolving. When one side creates something new, the other adapts fast. The tech race is just beginning. The future of US defense feels like science fiction. They're planning to use space interceptors, little rockets orbiting Earth, ready to stop threats before they enter our atmosphere. Like Sky Guardians, always on duty. They're also working on a kill web, a network of sensors and weapons worldwide. If one place is attacked, others respond instantly. It's like a super team, and it'll be decentralized, meaning if one part is hit, the rest keeps working. That could transform war. Faster, smarter, stronger defense. But space interceptors aren't simple. These rockets must stay in orbit, ready to strike. They're like the rods from God concept. Long imagined, never used. It's costly, it's hard. Still, the US is investing heavily. And decentralizing the network makes it harder for enemies to take down everything at once. This puzzle-like system could be the key to US safety in a world of fast, mysterious attacks. Like all advanced military tech, this raises concerns. Weaponizing space could spark a new arms race, each country chasing more power. This brings mysteries and ethical questions. Will space, once a place of peace and discovery, become a war zone? There's also the risk of mistakes, confusion, even accidental wars. Space weapons are hard to control. Diplomacy gets tricky. Yet the US believes it must move forward to avoid falling behind. In the game of national security, sometimes you have to bet big. And the next chapter of this story promises to be full of surprises. After all this, have you stopped to think how technology is changing how we protect nations? What once seemed impossible is nearly real. An invisible shield that could change the course of war. But will this arms race in space bring real safety? Or just more danger and mystery for everyone? I want to hear from you. Do you think the future will be safer or riskier with these new weapons? Leave your thoughts below. And if you love learning about tech, history, and the mysteries of our world, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. That way, you'll never miss a new video. The next story is coming, and you won't want to miss it.